Hello friends, welcome to our channel. So in our today's video, we are going to discuss how we can perform data analysis using Python. The topic that we will cover today is time series analysis. We will see what is time series data, what is the usage of time series analysis in different industries, and then we will write our actual code to perform the analysis, or I can say the time series analysis. So let's dive into this topic. So before performing time series analysis, it is very important for us to understand what is time series data. So as from this statement, we are able to see data points that we are collecting at regular time intervals. So when we are collecting data points at regular time intervals, we will consider that data as a time series data. If I will give you one example here of stock prices, then that is the best thing through which we can understand our time series data. So I will take the case of stock prices, and we are collecting data on a daily basis. Let's suppose we have a date column and we have the stock price column. So now we are collecting our data on a daily basis. So we have data on 1st of November, we have data on 2nd of November, we have data on 3rd of November, and so forth and so on. And stock price of 1st of November is 30 rupees, and on 2nd of November is 25 rupees, then on 3rd of November it is 35 rupees. So similar to this, we have the stock prices. So when we are collecting data like this, then this is called time series data. This is our time series data. This is one of the example in which through which we can depict our time series data. There are other examples as well, which we will going to discuss subsequently. So this is our time series data, and analysis of this data, or when we are going to analyze this particular data, then that is called our time series analysis. So I hope I am able to explain you what is time series data and what is time series analysis. Now, what is the important usage? Why it is helpful? It is helpful in tracking changes over time. As you can see, we can track changes over time. What is the changes in stock prices from 1st of November to 2nd of November? What is the stock price change in from 2nd of November to 3rd of November? In this manner, we are able to track changes over time. Also, it is helpful in analyzing trends. As you can see, we are able to analyze the trend of stock prices here. What is the overall trend of stock price? Is it increasing, decreasing, or the stock price is sideways? We can draw that particular conclusion. Also, it is helpful in understanding the patterns to make future predictions. So these are certain use cases that I can say that are relevant for time series analysis. Then, if we will talk in which industries this time series based analysis is important. So we have certain industry. These are a few examples. We can use time series analysis in other industries as well. So for the sake of simplicity, I have basically taken these industries only. First is finance. In finance, we can track stock prices. This I have given already the example here. We can track stock prices, revenues of companies, profits of companies, how these profits, revenues are changing over time. We can track those things. And why this is helpful? It is helpful for taking investment decisions. So my friends who are working in finance industry, they can relate with this. Then in retail industry, we can track sales data, through which we can see that whether our marketing campaigns are improving or not. Then in healthcare industry also, we can track patient vital signs like blood pressure, heart rate. We can track those things which will help us in basically improving our patient care, So this is some of the examples of different industries in which we can perform our time series analysis. So this is all like the base. I think I am able to explain you what is time series analysis, what is time series data, and the different industries where we can perform this time series analysis. Now this is our base, and we can use this knowledge to write our code. So for writing the Python code, I'm going to use Jupyter Notebook, but in Visual Studio. So when we are going to use Jupyter Notebooks in Visual Studio, all we need to do, we need to install the relevant extensions. So you need to, once you have that Visual Studio Code installed, you need to go on this extension, you need to click on this extension button, and you need to write the Jupyter here in the search box. You need to write the Jupyter. You will be able to see different extensions that are related to Jupyter, and you need to install all of them. Once you have the necessary extensions installed, you are able to use Jupyter Notebook inside Visual Studio Code. And in case if you face any challenges in installing the extensions, you can write your concern in the comment section. I will try to answer. Also, I will try to create a separate video on how you can use Jupyter Notebook in Visual Studio Code. So this is all together how we can install Jupyter extension and how we can use Jupyter Notebook in Visual Studio Code. So once you have the Jupyter Notebook installed, now what you need to do, you need to go to this Explorer. You need to click on this Explorer button, and here you need to click on this New File button. Once you will click on this, you need to mention your file name. Let's suppose I will mention demo file. And the important thing here is the extension of Jupyter Notebook file, that is IPYNB. So IPython Notebook is the extension IPYNB that we need to mention here, so that we can write our Python code in it. Once we will click on this, our notebook will be open. So this is the way through which we can create our sample notebook file. And once our notebook file is ready or handy with us, we can write the Python code in it. Now the important library that is very helpful for us in performing time series analysis is Pandas. Pandas is one of the important package in Python that will help us in performing data manipulation. So through this package, we can perform variety of tasks. It has two important data structures that are series and data frame, whereas series is one-dimensional data structure and our data frame is two-dimensional data structure. We will going to discuss about data frame later as well. So Pandas is our important package. So we need to import this particular package. But before importing, if you haven't installed this Pandas package, you need to first install it, and then only you are able to import this package. So first, what I will do, I will install this particular package. So for installing the package using Python Notebook, or I can say the Jupyter Notebook, what you need to do, you need to mention pim install Pandas. Just control enter it. It will install Pandas package. So it is mentioned, you may need to restart the kernel to use updated packages. My requirement is already satisfied because Pandas is already installed in my machine. In case you are freshly installing this Pandas, then once you will basically mention this or write this pip install command, the Pandas package will get installed in your machine as well. So after installing this Pandas package, we need to import this. And we will give alias as PD. So through PD, we can refer different methods that are part of this Pandas package. So now the question here is, we need to perform time series analysis. So there should be some data that should be in the form of time series based. So now we need to perform time series analysis. So we should have some time series data with us. I have already created that data. So as you can see here, we have this CSV file handy with us, in which we have the date mentioned, whereas we have this date column as well as the since column. So we will going to use this particular file to perform time series analysis. So in Python, when we need to read our CSV file, we will going to use our read CSV method of Pandas package. So to use that method, all you need to do, you need to use the alias of Pandas package and then write read CSV. So as you can see, it is giving me all important information about read CSV method. But now what I need to do, I need to mention the path of my file here. So my file name is sales_org, and I will mention that file as sales_org, and don't forget to mention the extension of this particular file. So once we have this particular thing, and we will do the control enter. And as you can see, the data is now basically present in the form of data frame. So now the thing that comes into our mind, what is data frame? So data frame is our two-dimensional data structure. It is our 2D data structure in which we will maintain our data into rows and columns, in which maintains data into rows and columns in the format of rows and columns. So the two columns that are present in our data frame are date column and sales column, and these are the different rows. This is our index. So we will use this data frame to perform analysis or to perform time series analysis. So now we need to assign this data frame to certain variable. For that, I'm going to use df as data frame variable and perform the control enter. So now our data frame is present in df. Once our data will come into our data frame, or we need to gather the information regarding our data frame. Information in the sense, what is the data types of column, how many null values are present in the column. This type of information is very helpful for us. So for gathering that information, all we need to do is we need to mention the info method. Once we will control enter, we will be able to see that we have the data in our data frame. From this, we can basically we can understand that our data is in data frame. Total entries, 365 entries. It means that there are 365 rows in our data. We have the two columns, date column and sales column. These are the two columns, and all the values are non-null. It means there are no null values in our data. And the data type of our date column is object, which is similar to string, and the data type of sales column is float 64. So now the reason behind identifying or gathering this information about our data frame is to see what is the data type. So if we want to perform time series analysis, then we need to transform this object data type to our date time data type. Then only we are able to perform our time series analysis. So that is why we gathered this information to identify whether the date column is present in object as object data type or in the form of date time. So in our current scenario, it is present as object data type, which we need to transform. So now what we need to do, we need to perform the data type transformation. So we are going to perform data type transformation. And friends, I want to emphasize on one important point, that it is always a good practice that we will mention comments in our code, because it will help us in identifying the purpose of that particular line. So please follow this practice to write comments, as many comments as possible in your code, because it will not only help you, but the other person who will going to read your code, it will help that person as well. So currently we will need to perform the data type transformation. And for performing the data type transformation, we are going to use the important method of Pandas package, that is toDateTime. So we will use toDateTime method for the same. And here we will write our date column. So if you need to write the date column, you first need to use your data frame variable, that is df. Here you can also see it is a variable, data frame variable. You need to use this df, and under the square brackets, you need to mention the column name. So our column name is date. So once we will control enter, as you can see, the data type of our date column is changed from object to date time. But we need to assign this particular change. So for that, we need to mention data as well. So what it will do, it will assign or make our date column as date time type. So if we can see from info method, what is the data type of our date column? As you can see, it is now date time 64. So now by using that toDateTime method, we are able to change the data type of our date column from object to date time. So I hope you are able to understand this particular point. So now once we have our date column in date time format, we can perform the time series, or we can perform the time series analysis over that. Now the important activity that is part of time series analysis is resampling of data. Now the question is, what is resampling? So resampling is basically changing the frequency of time intervals. Resampling is changing the frequency of time intervals. So what does that mean? Let's suppose our data is mentioned like 1st of November, 2nd of November, 3rd of November. So our date column is something like this. So we have the data on a daily basis. We have daily data currently present. Now let's suppose if we will change the frequency to weekly, or we will change our frequency to monthly, then this practice is called resampling. And why we used to do this type of activity? To perform the analysis over monthly basis, over weekly basis, over yearly basis. So to perform this type of activity, we need to perform the resampling. I will show you how we can basically perform that resampling just in few minutes. So this is resampling altogether. Now what we will do, we will write code to perform this resampling in Python. We have our data frame already handy with us. So what we need to do, we need to resample. We need to use resample method. So once we will mention the resample method, you can see the complete information related to it. So now first we will perform the resampling, or we are going to change our daily data frequency to monthly. So for that, what we need to do, we need to mention the M here as the first argument, and then we need to mention the on. So for after writing the on keyword, we will mention the column, that is the date column. So once we will do that, we are able to resample our data. But the purpose of resampling we haven't mentioned. What we need to perform after doing the resampling, we need to identify the average sales here. As we need to identify the average monthly sales, what we need to do, we need to mention mean here, for which through mean method we are able to identify the average monthly sales. So here you can see that we are able to, from our daily data, we are able to change the frequency to monthly, and our sales, the average monthly sales, is now present here in the sales column. So for 31st of January, that is the month that is ending from on 31st of January, we have this 468.57, this as the average sale. Similarly, for February month, we have 547.71 average sale. For March, we have this average sale. For April, we have this average sale. So what is the advantage of resample? To resample, we are able to change the frequency of our data from daily to monthly, and we are able to, after using the mean method, we are able to calculate the average sales as well. So this is one of the advantage. Similarly, if you want to perform the total for that month, you can also mention the sum method. Through this, you are able to calculate the total sales for that month. So for January, this is our total sales. For February, this is our total sales. So you can perform multiple aggregate sort of analysis to resampling your data. So I hope this resample method will be handy for you, or this resample method will be very helpful for you in performing the aggregation over weekly basis, monthly basis. So this is the first example of time series analysis in which we have used the resample method and the different aggregation methods. Now, in the second scenario, we will going to use shift method. So by using shift method, we are going to perform our time series analysis. There is a specific scenario that is given here, which mentioned like identifying change in sales. So we need to identify change in sales by using shift method. So we have the sales data given, we have the date column, we have the sales data given. We need to identify the change in sales. Need to identify change in sales over the time. We need to fulfill this particular requirement. Now, how we can perform that? Let's see. So first, what we will do, we will basically see our data frame. So as I already stated that we have this date column and the sales column. Now, when we are going to use, what I will do, I will take our sales column and I will mention the shift method, or I will use the shift method. Now, the thing is, I need to provide the argument inside the shift method. What shift method will do, it will shift the value of sales according to the period that I will mention here. So let's suppose if I will mention as shift 1. So what it will do, it will shift the values from one position. If I will mention as 2, so now it will shift the value of sales from 2 positions. Similarly, if I will mention as -2, so it will do the reverse shifting. So from the bottom of our like sales column, it will shift the values. So it depends like which all scenarios we want to cater. On the basis of that, we will mention positive value for the period as well as the negative. So it all depends upon the given requirement. So in our current scenario, we need to identify change in sales. So for change in sales, what we need to do, we need to mention shift as 1, because we need only one shifting of sales value, only one position shifting of sales value. So this will going to serve our purpose. So now, if I will mention it as previous sale, something like that, I am creating a new column here by doing this, and I will control enter this, and now I will see my data frame. So as you can see, we have, let me show you here. As you can see, we have the date column as it is. We have the sales column as it is. These two columns are already given to us. And now we have this previous sale column. The values are shifted now from one position, because we have mentioned argument as, or the period as 1. So the values of sales are shifted from one position. So this particular value is shifted here. This value is shifted here. So similarly, values are shifted from one position. So now we have the value shifted from one position. So now we need to derive the change in sales. So for that, now it is very simple. What we need to do, we need to just difference the values. We need to difference the value between the current sale as well as the previous sale. So we have this current sale, we have this previous period sale, and now we need to just minus this. So we will derive the change in sale. So I will do the same. Now I need to derive the change in sale. So for that, I need to subtract my current sale value, that is sale, and mention our diff sale, and in this way our new column will get generated. Now if we will see our data frame, there is a new column change in sale, and the values that are coming in this particular change in sale column, they are difference of current sale minus previous sale. So as like previous date sale is greater than current date sale, what is happening, this minus sign is coming. But in this third row, we can see our current date sale is greater than previous date sale, hence the values are coming in positive. So in this way, we can see that this is our change in sales, and we can derive this particular value. And let me tell you friends, when you are working in any of the project where we have these inventory management systems and all of these, so in those scenarios, these type of calculations like identifying change in sales, identifying change in sale percentage, these type of scenarios are very common. Similarly, in financial projects also, you need to derive the change in stock prices, change in any other assets as well. So it is very important that we will go through these type of calculations, or in other words, I can say we need to understand these type of calculations in detail. So now we have the previous sale, we have the change in sale. Now what we need to do, we need to derive our change in sale percentage. Change in sale percentage. This is also very common scenario, like change in stock price percentage, change in sale percentage. This type of scenarios are very common. So now what we need to do, Let me mention it as engine sale, and this is our percentage. So here, all we need to do is engine sale divided by EFC, as simple, right? And we just need to, and because we are deriving the percentage, we also need to multiply it by 100. Now, when we control enter, and let me add one more cell, and then we will see our data frame. As you can see, the change in sale is coming in percentage now. So -9% it is decreased, then it increased 48%, then it is decreased from 14%. So we are getting this idea of the trend, how our sales is changing from one period or from one day to another day, to from one day to another day. What is the overall trend of our sales? So this way we can basically identify. Now, this is one method through which we have derived this change in sale percentage, that is shift method. There is one more method in Pandas, that is diff. So let me show you that method as well. So this is the second method, diff method, using which we can also perform similar calculations. So here we are going to perform these similar calculations using diff method. So we have this sales column, and we will perform this diff. And when we control enter this, and let's see what is happening now. So as you can see, you can compare the values of change in sale. This change in sale coming from shift method. Let me mention it here. This is coming from shift method, and this is coming from diff method. It is also mentioned in the header itself. The values are exactly same. -40.8089, -40.089399.37, 399.331. What is happening? This diff method is doing the same thing. If you can see, let me show you. If we can see the statement pertaining to this diff method, calculate the difference of a element compared with another element in the default element is in previous row. So it will calculate the difference. So what is happening here? So what diff method is doing, it is subtracting previous row value from the current value. So we have this current row value is 425.55, and it is subtracting 465 from this value. And now this value is coming after subtraction. So diff method, if we will not pass any of the argument, it will go to the previous row and subtract it from the current row. But if we will pass any argument, then it will not go to the previous row, but it will go 2 rows back. Similarly, if we will pass 3, then it will not go to the previous row or previous 2 rows. It will go to previous 3 rows and pick that particular value and subtract it from the current value. That will going to happen. So we need to make sure what argument we need to mention in the diff method. It all depends on our scenario, because in our current scenario we need to identify change in sales. So we will keep diff method as it is, because mentioning one or not mentioning anything is one and the same thing. But if we will need to pick the value from 2 position back or from 3 position back, and then in that case we need to explicitly mention the respective arguments or the respective periods, I can say. So now what will going to happen? We have this change in sales from diff method, and what we will do, we will identify the percentage from this as well. So we have change in sale diff, and we need to divide it by our sales. This step is very similar to the previous step where we have derived change in sale percentage. And now what we will do, we will derive one new column, and here we are deriving the percentage, and like this. Okay, perfect. And control enter. And when we will see the final data frame, as you can see here, the percentage values that are coming are exactly the same. Like -9.42, where we have derived the percentage using shift method, and here we have derived the percentage values using diff method. So it all depends on your scenario. Like if you want to follow shift and diff, it all depends on which basically method you want to use. It all depends on the scenario you encounter. So I have covered two methods. One is shift and one is diff method to identify the change in sales. Now it's all up to you, like which specific method you want to use to cater your scenario. Now we have covered two important scenarios. In first, we have performed the resampling. In the second, we have identified change in sales. In the third scenario of time series analysis, we are going to identify the rolling average. So rolling average, this particular concept is very important when we want to smooth out the fluctuations that are present in our data. So when we need to basically analyze the trends or patterns or doing any forecasting, so in those type of scenarios, our calculation of rolling average is very important. So in the third scenario itself, we will going to identify our rolling average from the given data set. So identifying the rolling average is very easy in Python. Through simple method rolling, we can perform or we can identify the rolling average. Let's start. Now we have DF as our data set, and here what we need to do, we need to identify the rolling average. Here also the period inside the argument, that is the argument that we need to pass inside the rolling method, plays very critical role. So let's suppose we want to identify the rolling average of 10 periods. So in that case, you need to mention the rolling 10. And here, because we are identifying the rolling average, what we need to do, we will mention the mean method. So in this way, we have our rolling average will come. So as you can see here, the values are coming as 0. But after that, the values are appearing. So why it is happening? Because we have mentioned the value as 10. If we mention the value as 2, let me show you like this. So now here we have rolling average of 2 periods. So is happening for 2 values. For first 2 values, the average is coming here. For next 2 values, the average is coming here. So these are the averages of 2 values of our data set. So what I will do, first I will create a new column for this rolling average, and then we will see better how these values are appearing or how we are arriving on these values. So now in this scenario, we will create a new column with the name rolling average. Perfect, control enter. And when we will see our main data frame DF, so here now it is appearing better. Now we have this rolling average column. So this rolling average contains average of 2 periods. You can see here we are taking average of 2 values. So what it is doing, it is taking these 2 values. And the mean is appearing here for this. But this is empty value because there is no value prior to this 1st January 2022 value. That is why this is coming as not a number. But after that, you can see here, we have the value coming here as 445. So this is the average of these 2 values. Now, this 625, this is average of these 2 values. So in this manner, what it is doing average of 2 values, and the value that is getting created, it is putting here. Similarly, for next 2 values, the value is coming here to 4th and so on. So for 3rd and 4th, the average value is appearing here. And similarly, the rest of the values are populated in this particular column. So in this manner, as you can see, the purpose of identifying the rolling average is to see what is the overall trend of value. So this was our purpose for identifying the rolling average, to get fair bit of idea what is the overall trend, how our sales are going, whether it is falling, whether it is increasing. So we get a fair bit of idea how our sales are progressing over the time, so that after getting this idea, we can take important decisions about how we can increase this sales in the subsequent periods, to be precise. These type of decisions we can easily take once we have the clear idea about the trend. So in this video, we have primarily covered our resample method, what is the purpose of shift method, how we can use our diff method, and then the rolling method in Pandas data frame. So these are some of the important methods, or I can say the functions that are part of Pandas package that I personally frequently use for performing time series analysis. And I hope you will also, after learning from this video, you will also use these type of methods in doing different type of analysis on your own as well. So this is our time series analysis, and I hope I'm able to explain the concepts in very easy manner. In case you have any doubts, do mention them in comment section. I will try to answer. And for wrapping up the video, I'm requesting you to please subscribe this channel and please like this video. So we'll meet in next video. Till then, thank you. Take care.